Hello ladies and gentlemen, the purpose of this video is to show you how to create graphs for AP Macroeconomics. So let me have you open up your Google Drive. You can pause this and wait. If you don't know how to do it, you have these little squares at the top of Google. Just click on it, go to Google Drive. Now I'm already there. Now in AP Macro you have to draw a lot of different graphs. Production possibility curves, supply and demand curves, aggregate demand, aggregate supply. You have to do it for assignments during the class, and you have to do it for exams, and you need to be able to do it quickly and proficiently. So I'm going to show you how to create those in this video, and then in a separate video I'll show you how to put them into the course itself when you're doing assignments. So we're going to begin by starting here where it says create, and we're going to go to drawing. And the drawing function is really simple, but you need to play with it so you can get proficient with it. I'm going to draw just a simple supply and demand graph. For that, I need a vertical axis, and all I did was select the line form, create a horizontal axis. It's really quite simple. They need to be labeled. Happens to be a text box right here, so I can label the vertical price, as that's what it's labeled, and the horizontal in the supply and demand is just quantity. Now, I have to add my curves. I have a supply curve that goes up. And for this, I just label it with an S for supply. I have a demand curve that goes down, and I'm sure you're smart enough to figure out how to label that. That's right, I'm going to put a little text box over here. I'm just going to label it D for demand, supply and demand. But wait, we're not done. I need to show equilibrium points. You should know by now that equilibrium is where supply and demand meet. So I'm going to just draw another line like this. This line needs to be dotted. So to do that, I just select that function and make it a dotted line. And I need an equilibrium point that drops down from where supply and demand meet. That's dotted as well. So far so good, but they need labels. This first one stands for the price at equilibrium. Just put a P for price. Down here, this one stands for quantity. So just going to put a Q for quantity. And that text box isn't big enough, so I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. There we go, Q for quantity. Just adjust it back like that. Now, that graph is done. But in the problems that you do, there's going to be shift that happens. In macroeconomics, shift does happen. So perhaps supply moves to the left for whatever the circumstance may be. I'm going to draw another line. That's a new supply curve. I've got to label it. Now I can't label this one with an S because there's been shift happening, so I'm going to go S1 to show that there is change. I have new equilibrium points, so I'm going to draw in new equilibrium points. They have to be dotted lines, so I make them dotted lines. There's going to be a new P, there's going to be a new Q, but I've already used P. What do you think this one might be? I'm not trying to be poetic, it just happened that way. This is going to be P1, just like S went to S1. And this one is going to be Q1, because the first was Q. Still not done, however. I need to show the shifts emphatically so the reader knows that it's there. So this time, I'm going to draw an arrow if all goes well. And I'm going to draw a line that goes like, nope, that did not do it. So I'm just going to hit delete on that. Oh no, what happened? What can I possibly do? Oh good, I can undo the change. So I do still need an arrow that shows this sort of shift. So I'm going to click on line, I'm going to go to arrow. There we go. I'm going to draw an arrow so it shows the movement from S to S1. I need an arrow that goes from P to P1 and from Q to Q1. Now my graph is complete. I have my vertical axis labeled. I have my horizontal axis labeled. I have the equilibrium points labeled, P to P1, S to S1, show my arrows showing the shift. So the graph is done. Now the question becomes, how do I save this so I can import it over into Moodle where you're actually doing your work? To do that, I'm going to go Edit. I'm going to select all. It selects it all. Then I'm going to go back to Edit, and I'm going to copy shapes to the clipboard. Now, here's where we get a little more complicated. I'm going to go back to my drive here, and I'm going to create a Google document, because I need to paste this in the Google document just by going Command V. And it looks like I am going to get a spinning wheel of death here, so maybe that's not what I want to do. I'm going to dismiss it. I'm going to hit escape. Just delete that, and I'm going to go Edit, Web Clipboard. There's that graph that I just drew. So I'm going to just basically select that, and it pastes it in. Sorry for the confusion there. It's been a while since I've done it. Now I want to make this a little bit smaller, so I'm just going to go like this and make it a little bit smaller. Now that that's done in this Google Doc, really all I need to do then, I have a couple of options. I could do all my answers in a Google Doc with all the graphs, and I could try and copy and paste that document into the submission box of Moodle. Or I can just copy this graph by selecting it. I can hit copy, and I can paste that into a submission box. So I'm going to go ahead and pause this video here, practice making graphs, and then open the next video about how to submit it into Moodle, which is basically the submission boxes for each assignment that you do. So practice your graphs, watch the next video, and then all should be good.